Today's talk starts the beginning of a series. And the series is the basic toolkit for living. It's part of the Heart-Centered Metaphysics book that Unity puts out. Many of you might have seen it if you've been here for a Paul Hasselbeck class, because he wrote it. And this whole section, a quarter of the book's dedicated to the basic toolkits for living. And I decided to do this series on it. We're going to be touching on it on and off for the next several weeks. Because for myself, I know I always need that reminder to come back to basics, to come back to principle. It's really fun to go off on these tangents of existential thought and the latest new book and the latest new teaching that's out there. But to live day to day, to thrive day to day, to be brave day to day, I always find that I need to go back to basics, to go back to the truth of who I am and what I was so awakened with when I came here to Unity for the first time and heard these amazing teachings. Teachings that have been around for thousands of years, I will grant you, but for me, and for many of you maybe, they were new. They were an idea that you may have held in your heart, but never heard spoken in any spiritual center or church or synagogue or school. So today's lesson is really the basis of Unity, and it's fundamental. It's one of our 12 powers. We have a principle here called the 12 powers of man, and it's the spiritual attributes, the facilities of our being that make up what we call our Christ nature. And today's talk is on dominion. And it was really interesting when I said, okay, we're going to talk about dominion. A good friend said, what is that? What does that mean? I have no idea what dominion is. And I said, well, good, then that's exactly what we need to be talking about. And dominion in Unity terms is our power of power. Right? It means power, dominion, mastery. It is our ability to control, to manifest, to affirm who and what we are. Now, dominion in Unity is very specific. So before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to give you a quote of Charles Fillmore. And our dominion is over our own thoughts, our emotions, and our passions. Over our own thoughts, our emotions, and our passions. Our dominion is over our thoughts. Now, often we will, when we say the word thought, we think mind. Okay, that's what's going on in our mind. And when we think mind, sometimes we think brain. Right? But in Unity and in neuroscience today, we understand that mind is something bigger than our brain. Mind is our whole body, our whole heart, our whole feeling and emotional nature is wrapped up in mind. When we think, we not only think with what's going on in our brain, but we're getting impulses from our body, from our sensations, and literally our heart has its own intelligence center. If you were here a couple weeks ago for the film, The Power of the Heart, we had a wonderful refresher on that teaching, that the heart knows, sometimes before the brain, often before the brain, and informs the brain and the stomach. You might have heard, oh, but I really feel that in my gut. Well, no, actually what you're doing is you're feeling it in your heart, and your heart is telling your brain, which is telling your gut to contract. Ooh. So the idea that we have dominion over something is that we have dominion over our own thoughts. But here's where I want to be really specific. You have dominion over your own thoughts, not anyone else's. Right? That is usually our folly, is that we think we can control what someone else is thinking. And to even go further, we sometimes think we can control what we're thinking. Now, I know this sounds like a huge paradox. I'm telling you, we have dominion over our thoughts, but I'm going to do an experiment with you here. Right? Guys, I want you to control what your next thought is going to be. Right? I want you to determine what your next thought is going to be. I don't want it to be about cats or dogs or babies. No cats or dogs or babies, okay? I want you to control what your next thought is going to be, and just let it not be about cats or dogs or really cute puppies, right? Really adorable puppies and cats and babies. We sometimes have no control over what our first thought is going to be. The environment, our senses, we are programmed to take it all in, and our thoughts will just naturally occur. But what happens in unity, and what happens in unity, now, I'll take that step back. What happens in our own mind is that we have a random thought. We have a thought that just occurs to us, and we habituate it. We think it over and over and over again. We become best friends with that thought, sometimes even when it's really stressful, even when it's not our highest thinking. And that thought then becomes an emotion of fear or worry or anxiety. It may be a feeling of joy, but it's still habituated. Right? We keep thinking it over and over again. And then that thought, that random thought that's just crossed our head, goes from an emotion to a belief. And all of a sudden, what was a thought that just crossed our mind is ensconced in our very being as our belief system, or as I like to call it, our BS. Right? And it becomes, life is hard. It becomes, there's not enough money to do everything I want to do. It becomes, I can't do that because of my diagnosis. It becomes, my parents didn't raise me that way, therefore I'm this way. And our BS, belief systems, then create our world. Dominion is the realization that with examination, with insight and conscious awareness, we have the choice to change those thoughts, those feelings, and those beliefs, and therefore change our lives, change everything about our lives. Now, I'll give you some examples of how else we do this. You might have believed that in unity that we talk about cause and effect. That if we have a thought, it has an effect in the world. Right? And we think of them, and in life also, we say this. Right? As I just illustrated in the discussion, we think that cause and effect are separated by time. My mother did this, and therefore I believe this, or I act this way. I didn't get enough love from my mother, or my mother loved me this much, and that's why I'm this way. And we think cause and effect are separated by that time. Something happened in the past. I had a diagnosis. I survived cancer. I had a divorce. I came through the divorce. I was raised Catholic. Whatever you think, that thing that happened to you in the past is affecting how you are today. And the past is responsible for it, when actually that's not true. The past is as dead as it ever is going to be. The past is as gone as is humanly possible. The only place it exists is in your memory. And how you react today based on your own memory. So when I say I am reacting this way because my mother did this, it's because I'm remembering what my mother did right now. And when I change my memory and literally change the current behavior right now. There was a fascinating study in the New York Times this week. I just flew back last night from New York, and there was an incident in New York City, right, that just happened. This guy had been roaming the streets with a hammer and attacking people with a hammer. Yeah, horrific, right? It was like, what random craziness. But the cops, it happened this week while I was there, the cops caught him in the act chased him down and shot him in the middle of a busy intersection in Manhattan. This was all going on. Right? There were 2 eyewitnesses to the event. 2 eyewitnesses with completely different versions of what happened. Right? One of them said that a cop was chasing this man down the street and gunned him down. The second one said that this man was being handcuffed to the ground and the cop shot him. 2 random people giving a completely different occurrence of what happened on the street corners of New York City. And then came the video from one of the security cameras from a business on the corner. Showed exactly what happened. And this man had a hammer in his hand, and he was chasing a cop down the street, swinging the hammer at his head. And the cop's partner was chasing the man then and shot him to stop him from killing his partner. And then after he was shot, he was handcuffed on the ground. Now, those 2 eyewitnesses weren't lying. Those 2 eyewitnesses weren't making this up, but they saw only a partial vision of what had actually happened. And they filled in the blanks. They filled in all the parts they didn't know with their own ideas. And that's what we all do every day of our lives. We fill in the blanks and make stuff up. I have an MSU after my name. Make stuff up. I have a doctorate in it. Right? And when we do, we make it up based on our own beliefs, our own history. So when we claim our dominion, when we claim our power of dominion, we claim the higher road. And we say, if I'm going to make it up, I might as well make it up good. I might as well make it up in my best interest. My husband has a saying on all of his emails. He goes, I'm paranoid in reverse. I think people are conspiring to help me. Right? Like, yeah, why not make it up that they're conspiring to work for you rather than against you as we're making things up? The other way we do this is in space. We think that because you're standing over there and you're saying something to me that I don't like, that there's this distance between cause and effect. Rebecca, you're saying something and it's making me mad. And if you would just stop saying that way over there in your own little world, or we think we're upset because of the tragedy happening in Syria. We think we're upset because of the radiation spill in Japan. We think we're upset because of race relations in this country. And we think that some time and space have something to do with it. But in fact, what's going on is our consciousness is upset because where we are, we think that thing shouldn't be that way. That it somehow should be different. And therefore, right where we are is where the effect is. Cause and effect are not separate. They are simultaneous. They're instantaneous. And they're right in our own consciousness. They're right here and right now. The other way this happens, was time and space, is in consciousness. So as we think a thought, as we think something, we do, like rabbits, create more and more of them. If you're thinking a worrisome or a negative thought, they just tend to grow on each other. I mean, I know this for myself, right? It's like they multiply like rabbits in my head. And sometimes between my own 2 ears is the worst place to be. But there are interventions that we do, right? To stop and pray, to call a prayer partner, to pray with a prayer chaplain here, to call silent unity, to just stop, drop, and meditate, right? Changes that crazy wheel, that monkey mind, and allows something else to come in. allows the conscious intervention in our own consciousness. The other way that the law of mind action, or our thoughts creating works, is in our experience. You know, we are a magnet. We are. Abraham Hicks talks about it a lot about this, about the law of attraction. What we do, what we think, who we are, attracts more of its kind. So if you are a complainer and a warrior and are constantly living in that world, you will attract people to you that also are that way. And, have you ever had this experience? Ever decided you're going to buy a new car or a new outfit? Maybe it's a pair of shoes, maybe it's something. And then all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere. Right? They are everywhere, all over the street. It's like, oh my God, I must be brilliant because everybody else likes this car too. Well, those cars have been there all along, but your consciousness is now in line with it. And all of a sudden you're seeing that everywhere. So in experience, if you're fixated on the negative aspects of life, you will find more and more negative aspects of life. You will see that everywhere in your experience, and you will see it as proof that the world is evil, that the world is scary, that the world is wrong. What if you took dominion and took the choice to see it the absolute opposite? Do you remember George Costanza from Seinfeld? Do you remember the episode where he decided to be opposite George? That his life was so bad, everything always went wrong for him, that he decided to be opposite George. So if he thought something was a good idea, he was going to do the exact opposite of it. Right? What if we all were opposite for the day? When we think a fearful thought, to instantly go, okay, well, I'm going to do the opposite. I think I should worry. I think I'm going to relax. I think I should hoard all my money and not spend it. I'm going to give it away. I think I should be mad at that person. Oh, perhaps I should love them. Wow. Opposite day. Our experience can be turned around when we claim dominion over our own thoughts and not let a random thought become our crystallized belief system. Not let a random or a societal thought become our operating system. Not let negativity become our default. We claim dominion today. Dominion over our own thoughts, our emotions, and our beliefs, our passions. When we say, today, I choose differently. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to step out in faith. I'm going to do this differently. This also happens in the body. Right? Not only in our experiences, but in our physical bodies. Right? Unity has known this and taught this since the 1800s, that our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs affect our physical body. Thank God science is finally catching up. But now it is our turn to catch up as well. Because we've now bought into science, well, there's a pill for that. We've bought into science, well, there's got to be a cure. Modern medicine can fix almost anything. And yet, we still know that our minds can overcome anything. And there's literally scientific proof of it now. I was doing a little research on it this weekend, and two things struck me this one, so I'm going to read them because I really want to get them right, because there's facts, right? They're the scientists who do this. They research it. But this one really got me. This is from the University of Maryland's medical system, and it's on mind-body science. And they quote Dr. Spiegel at Stanford School of Medicine, and he describes the power of mind over body. And he did a study with women who had breast cancer. and he put some of them in a group where they had support, and some of them where they did not. And this is what he says. Of the 86 women with the late-stage breast cancer, half received standard medical care, and the other half received standard medical care plus weekly support sessions. In these sessions, the women were able to share both their grief and their triumphs. Spiegel discovered that the women who participated in the social support group lived twice as long as the women did not, and a similar clinical study in 1999 showed that in the breast cancer patients, helplessness and hopelessness are associated with a lesser chance of survival. Just about what they think and how they're able to express it. But going on in this paper, there's other research that shows spirituality has an even greater effect on survival rates. Researchers have been studying how spiritual beliefs, attitudes, and practice affect health. In a recent study on people with HIV, those who had faith in God, compassion towards others, a sense of inner peace, and were religious had a better chance of surviving for a long time with HIV than those who did not have such faith or practices. Research suggests that qualities like faith, hope, forgiveness, and using prayer and social support have a noticeable effect on health and healing. Wow. As you know, I shared with you at Easter that I have been HIV positive for 27 years. And when I was diagnosed HIV positive, the first thing I was doing was reading Louise Hay, joining a Unity church, studying A Course in Miracles, exploring my own spiritual path. And as I mentioned to you then, I have never been sick a day in my life. And I have gone on to create, manifest, and experience some amazing triumphs in those 27 years. I wouldn't be standing here with you today if it wasn't for the power of our thoughts, our spirituality, our community over our bodies. And it is an amazing, amazing gift that Unity has always known that the rest of the world is catching up with. But can we double back down? Can we let go of belief that the doctors have the cure, that medicine is going to cure HIV, that medicine is going to cure cancer, that technology has all the answers, and realize that we are responsible? We have dominion over this right here and right now, and we can affirm and say, I am whole and healthy at any moment. I am a child. An expression, a magnificent expression of the divine, and I need no outside interference to claim my wholeness. I claim dominion in this moment over my life, my experience, my body. Yeah. Right? It's a challenge for all of us to let go of the doctor God, to let go of the medicine God, to let go of all of that and claim our own inner divinity, wholeness, and health. I am whole. I am healthy. I have dominion over my life. Right here and right now. And then the last way that we get to choose to do this is in the physical world. And this is where I get a lot of pushback. Oh yeah, but Reverend Ken, you really can't affect what other people are doing. That guy with the hammer, how are your thoughts going to affect him? Right? How and my thoughts affect what's happening in Syria? That's a tough one. Does it affect our thoughts, our feelings, and our belief? Affect the physical world? So I go to outside authorities for this. And I'm counting on Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Right? And when I think about that, I thought, wow, listen to that quote. Thoughtful, committed people. People who are aware of what their belief systems are, what their bullshit Excuse me. Yes, slipped out. Okay, I wasn't unaware. and take action on it and say, this is no longer acceptable. So I've changed it a little. I invented this in the realm of Reverend Ken. Never doubt that your thoughts and beliefs can change the world. In fact, they're the only things that ever can. Your thoughts and beliefs can change the world. And I give you this as an example of it. I was just recently reading a book about the early days of the civil rights movement in Selma, right? They had been struggling for a while, and there was a group of about 15 or 16 people who were trying to affect change in Selma and trying to get some traction. So Martin Luther King Jr., of course, is one of them, trying to get traction and get the movement happening, but it was not taking place. They had met with failure after failure after failure. And then one Thursday, by random, they scheduled a march. And they had 15 people who agreed to join hands and march through the streets of Selma. Right? But they scheduled the march this day after school let out in the afternoon, like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And as they began the march, as schools and work let out, there were all these people lining the streets. And as the press watched it and the press started to report on it, they said thousands of people showed up for this march. And all of a sudden it was picked up by the national media because the 15 people who were actually marching were witnessed by all the people who were just coming out of their school and out of their work. And it got picked up, and all of a sudden it started to take hold. And that famous photo of the young man being attacked by the dog happened that day. He wasn't part of the march. He was coming home from school. And he actually wasn't even being attacked by the dog. It's an optical illusion, the photo. The dog was being restrained. The kid was actually kicking the dog, not the other way around. So it was really interesting, though, how that picture resonated with the nation, and how what was once acceptable was no longer acceptable. And the whole tide shifted in the civil rights movement. We've witnessed it all in our lifetimes, right here and right now. I was walking down the street with JD the other day in New York, and I reached out and I grabbed his hand. And we were just holding hands as we walked down the street. And I thought for a second, you know, when I first came out 30 years ago, I could not hold his hand without worrying. Today we're married. Today, across the whole country, the whole world has shifted, and we're about to witness, hopefully, marriage equality in all 50 states, and then watch it spread through the world. That has happened because a small group of people stood up and said, no, this isn't right. And one by one, we all changed our minds. If you look at the environment here in California and our own living in our own lives here in California, look at how our thoughts have changed the physical world. Do you remember a couple years ago when there were rolling blackouts or brownouts all over California? As California goes through crisis after crisis. I said it was brownouts several years ago. Well, there is more than enough energy that hits this earth every day to power the whole world. And California has figured out how to start harnessing that. And now we have lights without worrying about it. We have this because the solution arrived when we saw the problem. A couple of years ago, we had a financial crisis. There wasn't enough money in any of the state coffers to do anything. And yet, we all survived that. We all came together with different thoughts about the financial system, about the economy of California. And we all participated differently. Today it's water. Today it's the water crisis in California. Well, what can we all do as a group of thoughtful, committed people to change that? Right? Albert Einstein said that you will never solve a problem with the same thinking that you used to create it. When we claim dominion over our thoughts and say, okay, we have to think differently Our old belief system doesn't work here because it caused the problem. Whether it be in our personal life, in our relationships, in our personal finances, in the global economy, in the physical world, how are we interacting with all of this? Are we claiming dominion? Claiming dominion over our lives and others. The way we think literally changes the world. As we use water differently, as we honor it as a precious resource, as we look for opportunities to find it, see it, use it more wisely, again, we get to live the California dream. California's already done it in recycling, in pollution control, in energy. We can also change our physical world right here and right now. Never doubt that an individual or a group of awakened, conscious, living people with dominion over their thoughts can change the world, can change their lives. Because in truth, it is the only thing that ever has. Never doubt that you have the power to have a different life. Never doubt that you have the power over any disease, any economic situation, any romantic relationship, physical situation you find yourself in. Claim your dominion today. Claim the dominion over the thoughts in your mind, the experiences in your life, the body you inhabit, and the world we all co-create. Claim your dominion and watch as the world rises to meet your heightened expectation. Let's take this to our time of meditation. I invite you to get comfortable in your seats, to claim dominion over the chair, over the floor, and life.
I feel my heart go deeper, my heart go deeper into my heart. When I pray, I feel my heart go deeper, my heart go deeper into my God. Right here, right now, right where I am, I pray. Right here, right now, right where I am, I pray. When I pray, I feel my soul go deeper, my soul go deeper into my God. When I pray, I feel my soul go deeper, my soul go deeper into my God. Right here, right now, right where I am, I pray. Right here, right now, right where I am, I pray.
Never doubt that your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs can change your situation. Just release in this moment and notice. Notice where you are in thought. Just notice what you hold as true. and ask, is this my highest? Is this the best? No judgment. Just notice, right here, and right now, in this silence, notice what you hold. Take this opportunity to notice what you're thinking about your body, what you're noticing about your physical body, and to go deeper. How are you holding it in thought? And once again, to go into the silence. How do you hold the physical world in your mind? In this moment, you have the opportunity not to make it right, but to see it right. See it whole. See everything whole, healthy, holy, and complete.